Imagine a being who witnessed the Big Bang, a villain who conquered empires before humans discovered fire, a hero who fought wars before Atlantis sank beneath the waves. Today we are going to be looking at ancient DC superheroes who are older than planet Earth. Let's start with the true ancients. Clocking in at a mind-boggling 13 billion years old, we have a tie. Both hailing from DC Comics, we have Metron, the godlike observer who travels through time and space on his Mobius chair, constantly seeking knowledge. And then there are the Guardians of the Universe, the immortal protectors of the Green Lantern Corps. These ancient beings have seen the universe evolve from its infancy, making them some of the oldest and wisest entities in existence. Metron and the Guardians of the Universe are two of the most powerful and influential beings in the DC universe. They have both existed for billions of years, witnessing the rise and fall of countless civilizations. However, they have used their power in very different ways. Metron is a solitary figure who seeks knowledge for its own sake. He is often seen as a neutral observer, but he has also been known to intervene in the affairs of mortals. Metron's Mobius chair allows him to travel through time and space, and to access any information he desires. He has used this power to learn about the history of the universe, and to understand the nature of reality itself. Metron's knowledge is vast, and his understanding of the universe is profound. He has seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations, and he has witnessed the birth and death of stars. He has also seen the good and the bad in humanity, and he has learned that the universe is a complex and often unpredictable place. Metron's wisdom is often sought by other beings, and he has been known to offer advice to both heroes and villains. However, he is always careful to remain impartial. He believes that it is not his place to judge others, and that each individual must make their own choices. Metron's dedication to knowledge is unwavering. He is always seeking to learn more about the universe, and he is never satisfied with what he knows. He believes that there is always more to learn, and that the pursuit of knowledge is one of the most important things in life. Metron's knowledge and wisdom make him a valuable asset to the DC universe. He is often consulted by other beings when they need advice or guidance. He is also a powerful ally to the forces of good, and he has used his knowledge and power to help defeat evil. The Guardians of the Universe, on the other hand, are more proactive in their use of power. They have created the Green Lantern Corps, a peacekeeping force that protects the universe from evil. The Guardians are also responsible for creating many of the powerful artifacts that are used by the Green Lanterns, such as the Power Rings and the Central Power Battery. The Guardians are a council of wise and powerful beings who have dedicated their lives to protecting the universe. They are often seen as the moral compass of the DC universe, and their influence can be felt throughout the cosmos. The Guardians of the Universe are a diverse group of beings, each with their own unique abilities and perspectives. They are united by their commitment to justice and their desire to protect the universe from harm. The Guardians have used their power to create a vast network of Green Lanterns, who are spread throughout the universe and are responsible for maintaining order and peace. The Guardians are also responsible for creating the Book of Oa, which contains the history of the universe and the secrets of the Green Lantern Corps. The Guardians of the Universe are one of the most powerful and influential forces in the DC universe. They have been responsible for shaping the course of history, and their influence can be felt throughout the cosmos. They are a symbol of hope and justice, and they will continue to protect the universe for generations to come. At a sprightly 225 million years young, John Johns, the Martian Manhunter, is a being of immense power and sorrow. Born into a utopian Martian society millions of years ago, he was known as Ma'alefa'ak, and his people, the Green Martians, possessed a natural empathy and telepathic connection that fostered harmony. However, this peaceful existence was shattered by the rise of the White Martians, a subspecies driven by aggression and fear. They engineered a curse of fire that exploited a deep-seated Martian vulnerability to flames, decimating their own kind and leaving John as the sole survivor of this ancient race. His escape from the Martian genocide was nothing short of miraculous. Through a tragic accident involving the human scientist Dr. Saul Erdel and his experimental teleportation technology, John was ripped from his dying world and flung across the vastness of space to Earth. Stranded and alone, he grappled with the loss of his family, his people, and his entire civilization. He adopted the human guise of John Jones, a detective in the fictional town of Middletown, USA, using this identity to integrate into human society and secretly protect his new home. John's powers are a reflection of his Martian physiology and his deep connection to the psychic energy that permeates the universe. He is a shapeshifter of extraordinary ability, capable of altering his form at will, from mimicking the appearance of any human to transforming into monstrous creatures or even becoming intangible. His telepathy is equally formidable, allowing him to read minds, control thoughts, and even communicate across vast distances. He possesses superhuman strength, flight, and Martian vision, which grants him heat vision and other optic abilities. However, this incredible power comes with a profound weakness. Fire, the primal fear instilled by the White Martian's curse of fire, remains, leaving him vulnerable to both physical flames and psychic attacks that exploit this deep-seated trauma. Despite his immense power, John is a deeply compassionate being. He is driven by a profound sense of justice and a desire to prevent others from suffering the same loss he endured. He has been a core member of the Justice League, often serving as its heart and conscience. His wisdom and empathy make him a valuable leader, and his unique perspective as an outsider allows him to offer insights that others might miss. Yuga Khan, the very name whispers terror throughout the cosmos. This ancient and monstrous being is not merely old, but immortal, his existence stretching back over 500,000 years, a testament to his terrifying power and insatiable hunger for domination. He is the father of both Highfather, the benevolent ruler of New Genesis, and Darkseid, the tyrannical god of Apocalypse, but dwarfs them both in sheer power and ambition. Yuga Khan was once the ruler of Apocalypse, a world he forged in fire and ruled with an iron fist. His reign was one of unparalleled brutality and oppression, his every whim enforced by legions of monstrous parademons and fearsome warriors. But Yuga Khan's ambitions extended far beyond the conquest of a single world. He craved ultimate power, the power of the source itself, the primal energy that fuels all of existence. Driven by this insatiable thirst, Yuga Khan launched a campaign of terror across the universe, consuming entire worlds to fuel his growing power. He sought to breach the Source Wall, the barrier that separates the known universe from the Source, believing that by claiming its power, he would become the Supreme Being. His quest led him to the very edge of reality, where he confronted the Source itself. But the Source is not to be trifled with. Yuga Khan's hubris and insatiable hunger for power proved his undoing. The Source, in its infinite wisdom, saw the danger he posed and imprisoned him within the Source Wall, transforming him into a Promethean giant, a being of immense size and power, but forever trapped within the cosmic barrier. Despite his imprisonment, Yuga Khan's legend lives on. He is a figure of dread, a reminder of the ultimate cost of unchecked ambition and the destructive potential of power without compassion. Even Darkseid, his own son and a being of immense power himself, fears the day his father might break free from his cosmic prison. Darkseid. The name itself evokes images of tyranny, oppression, and the relentless pursuit of domination. He is the embodiment of evil in the DC universe, a godlike being of immense power and cruelty who has plagued heroes for millennia. While his exact age remains shrouded in mystery, it is estimated that Darkseid is at least 250,000 years old, his existence stretching back to the earliest days of the Fourth World. And like his father, Yuga Khan, he is functionally immortal, his life force tied to the very fabric of Apocalypse itself. Born Uxas, he was the younger son of Yuga Khan and Hegra, and from his earliest days, he craved power. He murdered his brother Drax to claim the power of the Omega Force, a cosmic energy that grants him near omnipotence. This act transformed him into the being known as Darkseid, a hulking figure with granite gray skin and burning red eyes that radiate his malevolent power. Darkseid rules Apocalypse, a nightmarish world of fire and brimstone with an iron fist. His reign is one of absolute terror, his subjects living in constant fear of his wrath. He commands legions of parademons, monstrous flying creatures that serve as his soldiers and enforcers, and he is served by a cadre of powerful lieutenants, including the sadistic Granny Goodness, the cunning Desaad, and his own son, the brutal Calibac. But Darkseid's ambitions extend far beyond the conquest of Apocalypse. He seeks to conquer the entire universe, to impose his will upon all of creation. He believes that free will is an illusion, a weakness that prevents beings from achieving their true potential. His ultimate goal is to obtain the anti-life equation, a mathematical formula that would grant him complete control over the minds and wills of all living beings. Darkseid's power is nearly limitless. He possesses superhuman strength, speed, and durability, and he is virtually invulnerable to harm. His most fearsome weapon is the Omega Beams, fiery rays of energy that he can fire from his eyes. These beams can disintegrate, teleport, or even resurrect their targets, making them a truly devastating force. Darkseid is a constant threat to the heroes of the DC universe, particularly Superman, whom he sees as the ultimate symbol of hope and freedom. He has clashed with the Justice League countless times, his schemes often threatening to plunge the universe into darkness. His relentless pursuit of power and his unwavering belief in his own superiority make him a truly formidable opponent. So there you have it, folks, a glimpse into the prehistoric corners of the comic book universe. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are countless other ancient characters lurking out there, with their own mind-boggling stories and universe-shattering powers.
I understand the obsession with ancient tales.
You do?
Yeah, I mean, we're not only getting to take a look back into the past, which is obviously pretty cool, but it's our past that also kind of informs our future, so.
Well, then I suppose one day we'll all be considered ancient to someone else, right? So.
Oh shit, what even is time, right? Welcome back, Nerd Squad. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Adam, and this is our top 10 ancient superheroes you didn't know existed part 3. Which hero first comes to mind when you think of the word ancient? Number 10, the Immortal. With a name like the Immortal, you bet your socks this guy has been around for a hot minute. Due to an accident that happened approximately 3,000 years ago, the man who became the Immortal was exposed to an unknown anomaly that gave him superhuman abilities that put him almost on par with Viltrumites, making him one of the 3 known beings in the universe that can make that claim. But outside of his incredible strength, speed, durability, stamina, and flight powers, the Immortal is, you guessed it, immortal. Able to regenerate at an insanely fast rate, regrowing limbs and organs, not needing food, water, or oxygen to survive, and being immune to all poisons, toxins, venoms, viruses, bacteria, parasites, pathogens, and allergens. However, funnily enough, there is a way to, quote, kill him. If the Immortal's head is separated from his torso, it needs to be manually reattached for his healing factor to activate. But despite that, even when they aren't attached, he still remains perfectly preserved until the reattachment happens. He's been around for so long that he's been a knight possibly under King Arthur as Lancelot, an explorer under or possibly as Christopher Columbus in the Spanish Armada. He fought in the American Revolution, became president of the United States by taking the alias of this guy Abraham Lincoln you might have heard of, and he fought as a soldier in the First World War. In the 1930s is when he officially became a superhero and more recently became a member of the Guardians of the Globe.
And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that like button? Hey. Click it! Number 9, The Darkness. The story featuring this host of The Darkness is so vicious and bloody, but also just so raw and emotional. I love it personally. While many think of a Jackie Estacado when they think of The Darkness, he is not the only host The Darkness entity has ever had, which honestly, if you're familiar with the story of Jackie, you probably also kind of know that because, you know, it gets passed down. In fact, there were many who came before Jackie. Case in point, Estacado, the Darkness host who is a leader of a Visigoth tribe during the final days of the ancient Roman Empire, circa 410 BC. After its downfall had really already begun, and some would say even kind of already concluded, I guess, Estacado is a known rebel against the Roman Empire and a powerful one at that, wielding the darkness in his fight against the last standing Roman legions. He ends up going head to head with Legatus and his legion after already dying and being resurrected by the darkness twice. While he offers Legatus a chance to surrender, Legatus knows he is doomed either way since the Roman Empire is coming to an end, and so chooses not to back down as he doesn't really see surrendering as a real option given the punishment for doing so, were they even able to make it back home at this point. As such, Legatus's legion falls and Estacado makes plans to march with his tribe to Rome.
Number 8, Ogon Bat. Okay, Ogon Bat is a unique and cool character in his own right, but he was also one of the world's first superheroes ever, even technically coming before Superman. Originating from Japan as the god of justice and protector of the weak, his origin is that he was originally an Atlantean who was sent forward in time 10,000 years to defend the modern world from evil. He wields a scepter that fires bolts of energy, causes mini earthquakes, and slices through steel. He himself was immortal, could fly, breathe underwater, had X-ray vision, and possessed superhuman strength, speed, and invulnerability to bullets and lasers. He was summoned by a little girl who would call on him, causing a sparkle to appear around, which then turned into a bat and then turned into the hero when it's found its enemy. It's very weird, but we just roll with it. While he initially started as a comic, he also has a TV show that appeared in several different countries outside of Japan, and I think he looks really cool. So, yeah.
Number 7. Cosmic Ghost Rider. Cosmic Ghost Rider is an interesting one. While I initially thought of the prehistoric Ghost Rider Ghost when it came to old Ghost Riders, I realized that despite being from an alternate future, Cosmic Ghost Rider is also ancient. But you know, future ancient. Cosmic Ghost Rider is the spirit of Frank Castle, who ends up becoming the spirit of vengeance after he is killed during Thanos' invasion of Earth. In this version of the story, Thanos succeeds in basically destroying Earth, and by the time Frank returns as Ghost Rider to the planet's surface, it's kinda too late for him to save his friends. He ends up alone on the planet, and after years and years of solitude with no one left to avenge, becomes, well, insane, as I think pretty much almost anyone would. Despite eventually becoming Thanos' herald, CGR is really doing his best to be a good guy. He only ever really even joined up with Thanos because, you know, well, there was no one left and he didn't want to be alone. Before even joining up with Thanos, Cosmic Ghost Rider did attempt to get his revenge on the Mad Titan, teaming up with Galactus, but even Galactus fell in this fight against this alternate King Thanos.
Number 6. Exodus. Grand Duke Benny du Paris was a 12th century nobleman from medieval France. Does that count as ancient? I don't know, anyone who was around then, so I'm taking it and just running with it, okay? Cool. What you gonna do about it? Nothing, because I'm just an image on your screen. As an adult, Bene was a crusader for the Knights Templar sent to Jerusalem during the Crusades, and he even became best friends with Eobar Garrington, the Black Knight of that era. The two had set out on a quest to find the Tower of Power, when his abilities manifested after an encounter with the Phoenix Force, which were then improved further thanks to the mutant apocalypse. But thanks to Big Blue, Exodus was trapped in a tomb until the modern day when he was awoken by Magneto and joined his cause. Exodus is one of the most powerful psionic mutants in existence, with such a pristine use of telekinesis and telepathy that he can even alter electrons and molecules. His power is so strong that Marvel even had to debuff him by making his powers dependent on his or others' level of faith in this mutant, although he still regularly kicks some serious butt.
Number 5. The Old Guard. Can we call the Old Guard heroes? I'm not really 100% sure on that. They're ancient warriors who've been many things over the years. Not all the things they've done were necessarily good, but I would say for the most part, they've tried to stay on the side of good, so I think I'm gonna count them for this list. And that's definitely where they are at when it comes to where we meet them in the modern day. Or at least, you know, the direction they're headed towards, I would say. Initially, the Old Guard were a group of immortal mercenaries led by their oldest member, Andy, aka Andromaca of Scythia, who is thousands of years old. It is in their welcoming of a new member that we get to see some of the good in them, despite them being essentially expensive, deadly, and nearly indestructible guns for hire. Their immortality is as much a mystery to them as it is to readers of the series, seemingly happening to each member miraculously and really without explanation. One minute they were alive, the next dead, and then inexplicably right back to living. In 2020, the Old Guard comics got their first film adaptation through Netflix. As with most Greg Rucka creations, the premise and his approach had me hooked, pretty much.
Number 4. Medieval Spawn. Okay, I'm gonna come right out and say this, I know nothing about Spawn. I did not watch the show, I never read the comics, I really have no right to be standing here in front of you talking about him, but I'm doing it anyways. Don't worry, I'm not actually talking about the Spawn. I'm going to be talking about medieval Spawn. Naturally, medieval Spawn was not only a hell spawn, but also a knight living in 16th century England. And if you think about it, knights were almost like medieval superheroes, with tales and stories all their own. Sir John of York fought during a civil war in England, but was released from his service to Henry II after he and 3 others mistook the king's anger for orders and went and took the life of the Archbishop of Canterbury. Now, once he passed at the hands of his king's bodyguards, he was sent to hell for his crimes, where he made a deal with Malbolgia and returned as a hellspawn. He then went around England committing good deeds in the hopes of redeeming himself, but he continues to survive after being basically bonded to his armor and now possessing anyone who chooses to don his helmet. And I need to start reading Spawn. right now.
Number 3, Witchblade. While most people think of Sarah Pizzini when they think of the Witchblade, Sarah was not the only one to wield the blade, and was, in fact, by far the first. One of the oldest Witchblade wielders was actually Samantha. Samantha hails from ancient Roman times, though she herself is not Roman, but instead was a native of an old Celtic town that they overtook named Cecilia. At least I think its name was Cecilia. There's also a character in the story with her that's named Cecilia, so that's a little confusing, but I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. Samantha was enslaved, but would eventually escape and end up running into druids out in the countryside, who believed she was the one who would be destined to save the other Celts from the Romans. She was given the Witchblade and would set out on a mission to destroy all Romans. While a hero ultimately, I would say, at least of her own story, Samantha's tale and alignment is pretty complex, which is often what makes Witchblade hosts like her so interesting.
Number 2, Martian Manhunter. You know, I didn't actually know how old Martian Manhunter is. I knew that he was the last of his race of Martians, and I know that he is extremely powerful and should never be slept on. And I know that he speaks with the resolve and intelligence of someone who has seen some serious shiznit. But when I found out that according to DC, he is in the ballpark of around or over 220 million years old, I gotta say, I took a moment to just digest that. John Johns, or John Jones if you want to be rude and go by his human name, arrived on Earth after he was pulled there by a teleportation beam during an experiment conducted by Dr. Saul Erdel, who brought him through space and time and then passed away from the shock of actually finding a Martian. This is because John's race was practically wiped out a long time ago, leaving him completely alone and isolated. But now on Earth, with no one to tell him what the hell was going on, he eventually used his shapeshifting abilities to become a detective operating in Middletown, America. For a long time, he mainly operated from the safety of his human persona before he eventually exposed himself to the world and became a founding member of the Justice League, and also one of its most powerful members. Just saying.
Number 1, Ghost Rider. Way before Johnny Blaze was even ever born, there was Ghost. Ghost is the original Ghost Rider, or at least believed to be the original Ghost Rider, the initial spirit of vengeance. Retroactively anyways, as he made his first comic book appearance after Johnny Blaze historically, appearing in Marvel Legacy issue number 1 from 2017. So obviously that's pretty recent, but you know, canonically one of the first. Ghost became the first Ghost Rider during the prehistoric era and did so in order to defeat the mysterious Wendigo, who took over his pack, becoming their leader only to eat the pack members save for Ghost. Ghost would stumble upon a snake and speak its real name in order to become Ghost Rider, the spirit of vengeance. He also has a cool mammoth, or he had a cool mammoth, and then he got another mammoth, and I think that mammoth's gone too, but he likes mammoths. He would go on to join up with the Avengers of 1 million BC.
And it sent Hercules. I think we all know the story of Hercules, whatever version you remember. The Disney animated movie, the DC version, the Roman or the Greek version, it's all generally the same thing. And I mean, even after that, this guy has a rap sheet of like 25 other heroic things he did, just like because he wanted to. A major factor in the well-known tragedy surrounding Hercules is the hatred that the goddess Hera, wife of Zeus, had for him. Because while there were many illegitimate offspring that Zeus, you know, sired, let's say, Hercules was the son of an affair that Zeus had with a mortal woman. And not just any mortal woman, but a mortal that Zeus wanted so badly that he disguised himself as her husband in order to lay with her, and ordered Helios, the god of the sun, to not let the sun rise for 72 hours so that his one last night with her would last. Yeah, so not only is he the bastard of a mortal woman, he's also the product of a forced 3-day night, which I guess doesn't really bother anyone living in like Alaska or Norway, because the whole 6 months of night thing, not anything weird.
Number 9, Odin. Odin ended up joining the Stone Age Avengers sometime after he actually was said to have created the humans on Midgard, which was then known as Aesheim. In doing so, he had disappointed his father Bor, who decided to punish Odin by hurting the humans. Now, as someone who often seems pretty detached from human suffering later in his life, it's pretty wild to think that Odin possibly created them and was perhaps one of the first cosmic beings to actually care for them as a superhero. And I know what you're thinking, but Amanda, we all know Odin is super old. Yeah, you know that, but did you know he was this heroic? Because I always find it very surprising myself. Odin ended up returning to Aesheim to act as its protector and also to learn how to better control Mjolnir, which was his hammer at the time. He ended up befriending multiple prehistoric superheroes, joining the Avengers of 1 million BCE, and he also ended up developing a deeply romantic relationship with his teammate, the Lady Phoenix. In fact, it was even revealed that the Phoenix was actually the true mother of his son, Thor, because that's what's happening now, so there we go.
And it ate Blue Beetle. In 1964, during the Silver Age of comics, Charlton Comics revised the character of Dan Garrett, the original Blue Beetle, for a new Blue Beetle series. Charlton's new Blue Beetle retained the original's name, but no powers or backstory, making him a different character. This Beetle was an archaeologist version of Dan, who obtained a number of superhuman powers including super strength, flight, supervision, ability to generate energy blasts from a mythical scarab that he found during a dig in Egypt, where it had been used to imprison an evil mummified pharaoh, because of course it was, which gave way for the DC Comics version of Jaime Reyes. DC's introduction of Jaime Reyes in 2006 retconned and expanded upon the Blue Beetle mythos, but given that the scarab was found during a dig in Egypt, where it was used as an attempt to overthrow Vandal Savage back in the 26th century BCE. Yeah, that's pretty ancient to me, okay? I mean, the scarab was created by Nabu, for God's sakes.
Number 7. Iron Fist. Fan Fei is the Iron Fist of the Stone Age Avengers, also known as the Avengers of 1 million BCE. Fan Fei is actually the reason why the ritual to become the Iron Fist and gain its unique powers was all about fighting Shao Lao in a battle to the death. This wasn't, however, because Kunlun wanted to challenge Fan at the time and believed she should, be their champion. This actually happened as the result of a punishment. Fan Fei, you see, was a kung fu master who had been trained since birth in Kunlun, but her curiosity of the outside world caused her to sort of leave Kunlun in secret. She came across cavemen who were helpless against the beasts that basically often attacked them, and she decided she was going to help them. Fan sought to help these people by teaching and training them herself in the ways of kung fu. However, it was forbidden in Kunlun to share your knowledge, and when her people found out, they marked her as a criminal. As punishment, her students were brought to Shao Lao and basically fed to the dragon. Forced to watch, Fan Fei went into a rage, breaking her shackles, seeking to share in the same demise as her students, becoming deeply distraught. However, when she went up against Shao Lao, she struck the dragon and her fist went right through, killing it, and coating her fist in its blood, giving her the power to channel her chi into fiery fists, and leaving her with a dragon mark, which marks her as the Iron Fist.
And at 6, Dr. Fate. Nabu the Wise was a Lord of Order and cosmic being who arrived at Earth billions of years ago to take on a proactive role in battling the Lords of Chaos. A cosmic being with near limitless magical power, his spirit resides in the Helmet of Fate and is the source of the great power held by those who wear the mantle of Dr. Fate. Dr. Fate is just the helmet. Fun fact, you all knew that. Dr. Fate's origins begin over 10 billion years ago, which I personally think qualifies as ancient, or maybe even older than that, if there is anything older than that. I don't know. My senior year Comtech teacher was pretty old. But not long after the formation of the universe, were there born two elemental forces, the Lords of Order and the Lords of Chaos. You can kind of see where this conflict is going. On the world called Celia, the Lords of Order manifested themselves, the first sentient race in the universe, and a race of incorporeal magical beings at that. After millennia, circa 3500 BCE, the Lords of Order descended onto Earth and then became Nabu the Wise, who was also an advisor to the pharaohs of Egypt. He's old, okay? I don't know what else I said 10 billion years. I think that's pretty solid.
Number 5. Conan the Barbarian. That's right, Conan is an ancient superhero who actually also hails from Marvel. Not only that, but he was also an Avenger. Despite technically being a Marvel superhero, Conan is also kind of otherworldly, hailing from the sword and fantasy genre of comics. Although for Marvel, Conan is still labeled as an Earth 616 character, hailing from their main comic book reality. He does, however, come from the Hyborian Age, an old hero from the past. But he was one of the heroes still summoned by Doctor Strange and Elektra when they brought together their own team of Savage Avengers to stand against the threat of Kulan Gath. This went down in Jerry Dugan and Adam Gorham's Savage Avengers series, which I still really want to read. It looks super good. It just looks like such a great time. And Conan's presence on the team is definitely part of the reason for my motivation to jump into this series, hopefully in the near future. I have a lot of things to read.
And at 4, Mr. Majestic. I put this here because I like the word majestic, but also this is kind of weird. Mr. Majestic is a Wildstorm comic superhero created by H.K. Prager and Jim Lee. He made his first appearance in Wild Cats number 11 as a backup story, but he's known for being the strongest superhero in the Wildstorm universe, and he shares quite a few similarities with Superman. But given that Wildstorm is owned by DC, there shouldn't really be any conflict there. Mr. Majestic is originally from the planet Kara and was known as Magistros, but yeah, this isn't like Superman at all. I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you be saying that. He has 2 kids, Kinesha and Magistrate, but there was also an infertility crisis in his homeworld, which resulted in only 1 child per woman. Yeah, so how did this happen? Well, Magistros and Coda warrior Lady Xana, who's also later known as other things, it doesn't matter. They were chosen not to breed, but since Coda warriors became priestesses after giving birth, Xana's mother pretended that Kinesha was stillborn and then claimed to have given birth to her herself. Yeah, so basically Kinesha passed off her daughter as her sister, which is a whole... They're old. It's old. It's an old thing. I don't...
Number 3, Starbrand. Vin is the Starbrand in 1 million BCE. He ends up becoming the Starbrand after leaving his tribe. He left them because he believed he did not belong due to the fact that he realized he was gay. Something that seemed to be unacceptable to his people in that time. On his journey, he sought out a garden he had seen in a dream, which it turned out appeared to be the biblical paradise known as the Garden of Eden. Once he found it, he also found Burke. Also no vowels. No vowels for these people in prehistoric times. The 2 men became lovers, but would eventually be separated after Burke died in a deviant attack. It seemed the deviants wanted the garden for themselves. The attack resulted in a cave-in, and while Burke did not survive, Vin did, finding the body of a dinosaur who had previously been the Starbrand. Vin was imbued with its powers and fought against those who had killed Burke. However, in the process, this also destroyed the garden. Vin would go on to become the hero known as Starbrand in his time and join up with the other Stone Age Avengers of 1 million BCE.
But ultimately, in number 2, Doctor Strange Fate. Doctor Strange Fate is the amalgam of Doctor Strange, Charles Xavier, and Dr. Fate. Yeah, they're present in the amalgam universe of Earth 9602, and given that both the Sorcerer Supreme and Dr. Fate are present, I think that this qualifies as ancient. Dr. Fate alone just makes that happen. Strange Fate learned that 2 keys controlled by Access would restore the DC Comics and Marvel Comics universes to their own worlds, which would result in the destruction of the amalgam universe and therefore him. So, to keep his universe intact, Doctor Strange Fate recruits Jade Nova, Skulk, and White Witch to capture Access and bring him to Strange Fate so that the amalgam universe can remain active. But it turns out that he was actually a part of a problem, or a part of the problem. That's a story for another day. But Doctor Strange, yes, the real one, preserved the amalgam universe in a pocket dimension, essentially making it its own multiverse in a sense. But I also bring this up because I like the amalgam universe, okay? It's cool. Iron Lantern, Lobo the Duck, hell yeah.
Number 1, Man-Thing Sorcerer Supreme. Perhaps even more surprising is a reality where the Man-Things rule the planet. Their version of the 1 million BCE Avengers team is filled exclusively with Man-Things as a result. One of these Man-Things is known as the Sorcerer Supreme on this planet in the reality we know as Earth 91. Unfortunately, we do not get to know too much about this version of Man-Thing, as he is killed by the Masters of Evil when they come to his reality in Avengers Forever issue number 5 from 2022. What we do know is that like Dr. Stephen Strange and many other Sorcerer Supremes, this Man-Thing does seem to possess a cape, although it is a bit shorter than Strange's, I would say. His version of the Eye of Agamotto, or his version of the third eye, I'm not really sure what's going on with this, also seems to be something that he has, but he wears inside his chest, or on his chest. I think Dr. Strange ends up with a third eye at one point, but he's also got the Eye of Agamotto, so I don't know. Instead of Man-Thing wearing this anywhere else or having it on a chain or a necklace, implying, you know, that this eye is a part of him. Or perhaps it's simply, you know, like I said, just a third eye, and it's just on the chest. I feel like that wouldn't be, I mean, I guess he doesn't really wear clothes because he's a Man-Thing, so actually I guess it'd be fine.
Some existed before existence itself, beings who witnessed the birth of creation and will be there for its end. The gods of the fourth world, the angels of the Silver City. Comic book universes are teeming with ancient entities. These beings are not myth, they're reality. Join us as we unravel ancient superheroes more powerful than you think, Part 2. Starting things off with the Endless. A group of 7 immortal beings are as vast and timeless as the universe itself. Their existence transcends both space and time, making them akin to the very fabric of reality. While some readers might perceive them as existing outside the DC multiverse, the acclaimed series Sandman and its associated titles firmly anchor them within the main DC continuity. In fact, even iconic characters like Superman were shown attending Dream's funeral near the end of the series, underscoring their integral role within the DC universe. Delving into the Age of the Endless is a fascinating endeavor. Destiny, the keeper of all destinies, has existed for as long as anything, as everything is etched in his book. However, the existence of multiple universes, as exemplified by the Fourth World, raises questions about whether Destiny and the Endless predate them. The concept of destiny emerged at the dawn of time, but it's highly likely that destiny existed in some form even before time itself began. Destiny and the Endless are undoubtedly among the oldest forces in the universe. Having emerged alongside them, their existence alongside these ancient powers grants them the top spot in the rankings as the oldest characters in the DC universe. The Endless are not merely ancient, they are eternal. They have witnessed the birth and death of countless universes, and their influence extends far beyond the mortal realm. They are the guardians of dreams, desires, death, destiny, and other fundamental aspects of existence. Their stories are intertwined with the history of the DC universe, and their impact on the multiverse is immeasurable. The One Above All stands as the supreme being in the Marvel universe, an entity so profoundly powerful and enigmatic that it eludes complete comprehension. He is often considered the ultimate creator, the architect of all realities, existing outside the boundaries of time and space as we understand them. His age is immeasurable, predating the very concept of existence itself. To illustrate the sheer scale of his power, consider the Living Tribunal. This cosmic entity, a being of immense power who judges the entirety of the multiverse, is but a servant to the One Above All. The Tribunal, a tripartite being composed of eternity, infinity, and death, maintains balance across countless dimensions. Yet even this godlike figure bows before the One Above All, acknowledging his ultimate authority. Mark Waid, during his influential run on the Fantastic Four, first introduced this omnipotent being to the Marvel Universe. In a moment of meta-textual brilliance, the One Above All appeared in the form of Jack Kirby, the legendary artist who co-created the Fantastic Four and shaped the visual landscape of Marvel Comics. This was not just a clever nod to a comics icon, it was a symbolic representation of the One Above All's role as the ultimate creator, mirroring the real-world creation of the Marvel Universe by Kirby and his collaborators. The One Above All, however, is not merely a distant creator. He has, on rare occasions, intervened in the affairs of the multiverse, often in subtle ways that reveal his compassion and understanding. He has offered guidance to lost souls, provided solace to the grieving, and even resurrected heroes when the fate of reality hung in the balance. These instances, though infrequent, highlight his benevolent nature and his profound connection to all living things. Etrigan the Demon, a character whose origins intertwine with the very fabric of the universe. In the celestial realm known as the Silver City, where angels under God's guidance devised the blueprint for the cosmos, Lucifer, the most radiant of them all, learned of the impending arrival of humanity and mortal life. A spark of dissent ignited within Lucifer's heart, leading him to question God's plans and incite a rebellion against his authority. Etrigan, a powerful demon, was among the angels who heeded Lucifer's call, aligning himself with the rebellious forces. The ensuing conflict between the angels and Lucifer's followers was a cataclysmic event, resulting in the expulsion of those who sided with the rebellious leader. Etrigan, along with his fellow rebels, was banished to the depths of hell, where he was transformed into a rhymer, a figure of immense power within the infernal hierarchy. In the depths of hell, Etrigan's destiny intertwined with that of a human named Jason Blood, a knight who had been summoned to the underworld to confront a demonic threat. A bond formed between the two, granting Jason the ability to transform into Etrigan when he uttered a specific incantation. This symbiotic relationship transformed Etrigan from a mere demon to a hero, a champion of good who fought against evil on Earth. Etrigan's existence as a hero, however, was not without its complexities. While he battled against evil on Earth, he remained a creature of hell, tormented by the souls of the damned. This duality of his nature created an intriguing juxtaposition, where he was both a savior and a monster, a hero and a villain. The Living Tribunal stands as a monumental figure in the vast cosmic hierarchy of Marvel Comics, a being of immense power and authority who oversees the delicate balance of the entire multiverse. Conceived by the creative triumvirate of Stan Lee, Marie Severin, and Herb Trimpe, the Living Tribunal predates much of the Marvel Universe, his existence intertwined with the very fabric of reality. Functioning as a cosmic judge and arbiter, the Living Tribunal's role is akin to that of the Watchers, but on an infinitely grander scale. While the Watchers observe and record events within a single universe, the Living Tribunal's jurisdiction extends across all realities, ensuring that no single universe gains dominance over others and that the cosmic balance is maintained. His distinctive three-faced visage, each face representing a different aspect of his being, equity, vengeance, and necessity, reflects his multifaceted role in safeguarding the multiverse. The front face, representing equity, judges with impartiality, while the partially obscured face on the right, vengeance, ensures that transgressions against the cosmic order are met with appropriate consequences. The fully covered face on the left, necessity, embodies the inevitable course of events, even those that may seem harsh or unjust. The Living Tribunal's origins lie in the dawn of creation, his existence predating the formation of stars, galaxies, and even the very concept of time itself. He has witnessed the birth and death of countless universes, the rise and fall of civilizations beyond mortal comprehension. His age, measured in billions of years, is merely a pale reflection of his timeless nature. The Fourth World, a realm beyond the conventional boundaries of time and space within, is home to the New Gods, a pantheon of powerful beings who embody the eternal struggle between good and evil. Created by the legendary Jack Kirby, these characters, including the noble Orion and the escape artist Mr. Miracle, represent the pinnacle of his creative genius. The genesis of the New Gods lies in the destruction of the Third World, a realm inhabited by ancient deities. From the ashes of this cataclysm arose two distinct worlds: New Genesis, a verdant paradise brimming with life and harmony, and Apocalypse, a fiery hellscape ruled by the iron fist of Darkseid. The New Gods, born from these contrasting worlds, inherited the mantle of their predecessors, becoming the new guardians of the cosmos. However, the precise timeline of their emergence remains shrouded in mystery. Are they older than the Presence, the enigmatic entity often regarded as the DC Universe's equivalent of God? Did they precede the angels who dwell in the Silver City? The answers to these questions remain elusive, as the New Gods exist outside the conventional flow of time, making it difficult to pinpoint their exact age. And in the final spot we have the Spectre. A figure of awe-inspiring power and divine wrath, stands as the embodiment of God's vengeance in the DC universe. While most familiar as the spectral force that bonded with Detective Jim Corrigan in the 1930s, the Spectre's origins stretch back to the dawn of creation, his existence intertwined with the celestial drama that unfolded in the Silver City. Before he was the Spectre, he was Astar, an angel residing in the luminescent realm where angels crafted the cosmos under the guidance of the Presence. When Lucifer, the morning star, ignited a rebellion against the divine order, Astar was among those who succumbed to the allure of defiance. Cast out of heaven alongside the fallen angels, Astar's fate took a dramatic turn when the rogue angel Eclipso incurred the wrath of the Presence. It was then that Astar was transformed into the Spectre, the embodiment of divine vengeance. Tasked with delivering punishment upon the wicked, angels, as beings of divine creation, predate much of existence. While not the oldest beings in the cosmos, they stand among the most ancient, their origins lost in the mists of time. The Spectre, born from this ancient lineage, has been a recurring force in the universe, his presence felt across eons. The Spectre's modus operandi involves merging with a human soul, using their body as a vessel to carry out his divine mission. While Jim Corrigan is perhaps the most well-known of these hosts, he is but one in a long line of individuals who have been bonded with the spirit of vengeance. He is a figure of immense power, yet also one of profound tragedy, forever bound to carry out the will of the Presence, even when it conflicts with his own sense of morality. And there you have it, an in-depth look at ancient superheroes more powerful than you think. So the next time you crack open a comic book, remember that the story goes deeper than you think. Look beyond the heroes and villains, and you might just glimpse the true ancients watching over it all.
Number 10, the Question. In the Prime Earth continuity, the Question, or a version of the Question, is revealed to be one of the oldest beings in the world of DC. This is revealed after we learn that the Question was one of the criminals in essence that the Circle of Eternity, located at the Rock of Eternity, chose to punish for their crimes against humanity. This group of beings who were punished were known as the Trinity of Sin. The Question would go on to become a hero following this. This version of the Question is largely a mysterious figure who is not not appeared as much, probably because the original version of the character Vic Sage and his predecessor Renee Montoya ended up both returning to the comics recently. What we do know is that the Question had his memory erased from history and from himself, with even his face being left completely featureless, so he could never remember who he was. This was part of his punishment, but also done to guarantee that the Question would not be able to rise up once more as he had threatened to do originally, since he would no longer be able to remember what exactly he had done and why in the first place. So how can he return if he doesn't even know, why he was doing it in the first place? And apparently, we may never get to know any of this either, unless somebody returns to tell the rest of this version of the Question's tale. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, and if you also love superheroes that are surprisingly old, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 9. The Eternals. The Eternals are simply a group of heroes most people don't often think of, which is why I'm including them here. Despite them coming to the MCU, I would still say there are tons out there who have fallen off the MCU bandwagon recently and kind of just weren't particularly compelled to watch this film. So there are still a lot who do not know about the Eternals, which is unfortunate. This is a huge shame, I think, because the Eternals are really a cool group of heroes who have existed for millennia. Initially, their origin was that they were prehistoric humans who were basically modified by celestial tech, turned into their own race of beings. Later on, we'd get an additional bit of information on their origin in terms of kind of how they worked, how they operated, but them being resurrected by the Great Machine on the regular anytime they died. That's how they were eternal, almost being like kind of androids with a soul in a sense at one point. The Great Machine is actually also Earth, which is both a big blue ball that everyone lives on and, at its core, an actual machine, a resurrection machine in part. Its survival is intrinsic to the survival of Earth and all life forms living on it, and it was, up until recently, also tied to the Eternals, meaning that for Earth to continue, the Eternals would also have to continue to be called into existence. The Eternals, being ancient heroes, were initially the enemies of the Deviants, who were also created by the Celestials. They defended Earth against the Dark Celestials, or they tried to, and have also become ingrained in human mythology, with them being the real-world heroes from ancient epics and folklore. Hawkgirl. While Hawkman recently appeared in Black Adam in the DCEU, which has been rebranded with their highly anticipated reset impending as simply the DCU, Hawkman isn't the only hero out there who is ancient among the Justice Society. And no, I'm not talking about Dr. Fate, who also is pretty old. In fact, many people probably didn't even know that Hawkman was really even ancient per se. He doesn't look old, that's for sure, but he is, in fact, not in body, but in soul. Hawkman is the reincarnated soul of ancient Egyptian Prince Khufu Qatar. Carter Hall is only the latest in a line of incarnations of the prince in the comics, and his love, Sheara, was also reincarnated as well throughout the years, becoming known as the hero Hawkgirl and also as Hawkwoman. Later, this origin would be retconned, tweaked somewhat, so they'd actually be even older than ancient Egypt, instead becoming ancient aliens from the planet Thanagar, who simply came to Earth. Their original souls in this version of the tale were each believed to belong to Shra and Qatar the Deathbringer, who were both cursed to be reincarnated alongside each other throughout eternity. Number 7. Gaia. Gaia is someone that we perhaps don't think of as being an ancient superhero because, well, we just don't really think of Gaia that much. She hails from Marvel Comics and is the goddess of Earth. Gaia is seen as one of the oldest gods that Marvel has to offer us, being one of their elder gods. In fact, Gaia is kind of one of the only elder gods who could be seen as heroic or good. At least one of, I would say she's up there, considering she is one of the few who managed to avoid becoming a demon. She also actively sought out the Demiurge in order to produce offspring that would help to rid the universe of the other elder gods who had been corrupted after they became demonic, giving birth to Atom, who then became the Demigorge, the God Eater. She's probably also one of the oldest heroes mentioned on this list at all, so there's also that. Number 6. Nubia. Nubia is possibly even older than most other Amazons, who are generally known for being old and immortal just standardly. In Infinite Frontier, her story was retconned so that she was no longer a woman held and mistreated against her will for a long time, but a princess reborn in the Well of Souls. Nubia was born from the Well of Souls reincarnated around the same time that Princess Diana was born, and the two grew up often being thought of as sisters. And if you're wondering why I was mentioning that she might be older than some of the other Amazons, that's just because she's reincarnated. So although Nubia in her own form form is around the same age as Diana, she also got an old soul, you know what I mean? She would spend many years as the guardian of Doom's doorway, and would act as a loyal supporter to Queen Hippolyta, even when it seemed that she had betrayed her. In fact, Nubia's loyalty to the Amazons in the current continuity has not failed, and she even recently was chosen to be the new queen of the Amazons. And we're not just talking about the Amazons of Themyscira either, but in fact all known Amazons in existence, as there are actually multiple Amazonian tribes in existence throughout the world. Number 5. Lady Phoenix. Well, I did think that Phoenix was a little too on the nose for my part 1 of this list. There were some who actually requested her in the comments, so fair enough. Some people want to know more about her. And since she was featured in our thumbnail / cover photo for that first part of our list, I felt for all you loyal nerds who came to this part 2, I should oblige you and tell you more about Lady Phoenix. Who is the woman we featured on that thumb? She is also a member of the 1 million BCE Avengers, also nicknamed the Stone Age or Prehistoric Avengers. Before she was the host of the Phoenix, she was simply known as Firehair, named after her bright red hair, which left her abandoned by her parents only shortly after she was born into the world. Anyone who their tribe deemed basically different in some way was sacrificed in this manner. This was also to be the fate of Firehair, but she was rescued by wolves, so she ended up being okay. She grew up among her pack, but eventually joined up with the Tribe Without Fear, a group of prehistoric mutants. Her own mutant powers would manifest, and she would eventually lose her tribe and become bonded to the Phoenix Force. Ultimately resisting its dark temptations, she would go on to become one of the founding members of the Stone Age Avengers alongside Odin. While it was suggested that Lady Phoenix was actually the true mother of Thor, we learned in Avengers 1 million BC issue number 1 from 2022 that her relationship ended with Odin before Thor was born, with Gaia being Thor's natural mother as we knew before, Freya being Thor's adoptive mother, and Lady Phoenix being dubbed kinda like his bonus mother after she helped Gaia give birth to Thor and saved him from a premature death. And then Gaia was like, you can be mother to Thor too. So we got that all figured out. Sorry what I said on part 1, it's not exactly true. Not his mother, well she is his mother, but she's not his only mother. He's got a lot of mothers. Number 4. Artemis. Artemis was also once Wonder Woman, don't you know? Back in the New Earth continuity. She herself is an Amazon, and despite her youthful appearance, like most Amazons, she's pretty old. In fact, in the New Earth continuity, she was also granted eternal youth as the result of a spell that Circe had cast upon her. In the Prime Earth continuity, she is just straight up immortal. She hails from the Bana Migdal, which is a splinter group of Amazons all their own. Like I said, there are many different tribes. Princess Diana of Themyscira and Artemis have often been presented as rivals in the comics, with Artemis often being jealous of Wonder Woman and kind of striving to prove herself superior to Diana. But despite this, she is ultimately a force for good and a hero, though her warrior's heart might be a little harder in comparison maybe to Diana's when it comes to her heroic approach. Number 3. Red Sonja. Red Sonja is an interesting one to think of as old, considering how she is often portrayed in the comics. But like Conan, who I touched on during the part 1 of this list, Sonja herself is also ancient in the sense that she hails from the past, the Hyborian Age. She was a creation of Robert E. Howard's, who initially existed within Marvel, but eventually ended up being moved over to Dynamite when it comes to who owns the right to this fiery, fierce warrior character. The Hyborian Age was actually a pastime in Marvel history, at least that is what we're led to believe based on the fact that both she and Conan hail from the reality of Earth 616. Red Sonja set out on her path to become a fierce fighter at a young age, after she was left orphaned when her family were killed and her people were attacked by a group of mercenaries. Red Sonja hails from Western Hyrcania and often fights to help those who cannot help themselves, even sometimes training those she comes across so that they might actually act as a hero in their own story. She is sometimes also a sword for hire, but generally only takes jobs that kind of fit with her own particular moral code. And she does have a moral code, even though she's a mercenary a lot of the times. Number 2. Shazam. Wait. Billy Batson is super old? No, we aren't talking about Shazam. No, not that Shazam. Not the Shazam formerly known as Captain Marvel. We're talking about the Wizard, who gave Billy Batson his powers and who has also been known by the name of Shazam. Initially in the Prime Earth continuity, we were led to believe that the Wizard was simply someone who bestowed powers on Billy, but we'd later learned that he was actually one of the old gods Shazam would actually get his powers from. This truth of the Wizard's, aka Mama Roggins, aka Shazam's origin would be revealed after Billy Batson was left deep depowered following the action of Grail, Darkseid's daughter, who basically cut off his access to his powers by untethering the old gods from his magic lightning. While not a direct superhero, the wizard is a powerful force of good who is even able to help repower Billy from the afterworld in spirit form, finding basically new gods for him to be empowered by. Number 1. Eternal Warrior. Marvel and DC are not the only publishers who have ancient heroes. Even Dynamite, now owning Red Sonja, is not the only publisher with ancient superheroes by any stretch. A lot of people have ancient superheroes. In fact, one publisher that was suggested in the comments that has tons of ancient superheroes is Valiant Comics, so I'm happy to be talking to you about that. Great suggestion. This particular hero from Valiant that we're talking about is Gilad Anipada. Gilad was one of 4 siblings granted immortality. He has used this extended time over his life to train up, becoming a master in many different areas of combat. He acts as a hero in the comics, being tasked with defending the Geomancer of any given generation. Geomancers were kind of born in a line, and they're magical heroes in their own right who were chosen to act on behalf of the Earth as the planet's defender, and who are able to communicate with nature and the Earth. And the Eternal Warrior basically just acts as like their guardian, so heroes protecting heroes.
In at number 10, Bast. Also known as the Panther God, Bast is the child of Ra, and first appeared in Fantastic Four issue 52 in 1966, but solely as a totem. It is the deity that the Black Panthers of Wakanda get their powers from, after proving themselves worthy of the mantle through trials, gaining the privilege of using the heart-shaped herb. A Wakandan legend states that when the 5 tribes fought for control of the nation, a warrior shaman received the vision from Bast that led him to the heart-shaped herb, and to the responsibility of becoming king of Wakanda and the very first Black Panther. In addition to this, whenever someone passes away, in the afterlife they are brought by Bast and Sekhmet to a mystical green valley in which they can run freely in peace for all of eternity. And at number 9, Kronos. Kronos was initially one of the Eternals of Earth, but due to an explosion from an experiment gone haywire, he lost his physical form, and was left being an abstract energy form. Silver lining though was that this gave him immortality and cosmic powers. In Kronos' first appearance, he took the soul of Arthur Douglas, a victim of Thanos', and transformed him into Drax the Destroyer in order to take on the Mad Titan, who was also his own grandson. Kronos was one of the many cosmic entities who fought alongside Adam Warlock in the Infinity Gauntlet series, in an attempt to stop Thanos from wielding the Infinity Gems. Up next at 8 is Hela. Hela is based on the Norse goddess Hel, and is a constant antagonist of Thor's. The character first appeared in Journey into Mystery issue 102, and was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. She's the daughter of a different incarnation of Loki, who had died during a previous Asgardian Ragnarok. Odin appointed her as the goddess of the dead, and she would often butt heads with him and Thor over her attempts to expand her power to the dead who dwell in Valhalla. Speaking of, next up at number 7 is Thor. Perhaps the most beloved god on this list, Thor is based off of the Thor of Norse mythology. In the comics, he's the Asgardian god of thunder, who first debuted in Journey into Mystery issue 83 back in 1962. Prior to this, another version of the character had appeared in Venus issues 12 and 13 back in 1951. Created by Stan Lee, Larry Lieber, and Jack Kirby, the aim was to craft a character who was stronger than the strongest person. As Lee stated back in 1992, I quote, "It finally came to me. Don't make him human, make him a god." Kirby had initially drafted up a version of a Thor character for DC back in the 50s, but the one that he did for Marvel in the 60s really stuck. Enamored by legends, he wanted to take the Norse Thor legends of the real world and give them a modernist twist. Up next, number 6, Odin. Speaking of Thor, let's take a look at his father, Odin. Also based off of the Odin of Norse mythology, Odin is an incredibly powerful Asgardian, and can tap into the Odin Force, an ancient and vast Asgardian power which includes energy projection, creating illusions and force fields, levitation, telepathic communication with other Asgardians, molecular manipulation, hypnotism towards humans, control of Asgardian life forces, teleportation, and the channeling of lightning. Yeah, so dude can do a lot. Up next at 5, Eternity. Eternity is a wickedly cool abstract entity. Essentially every universe in the multiverse manifests itself as an anthropomorphic being known as Eternity. Eternity embodies Earth 616 reality, along with his sister Infinity. First appearing in 1965's Strange Tales 138, Eternity was the collective consciousness of all life, and was dependent upon it. Nowadays, Eternity rarely manifests himself, but when he does, it's because of an imminent threat to the universe, like when Thanos collected all of the Infinity Gems and imprisoned Eternity, proving that the entity isn't entirely omnipotent. That being said, Thanos ranked Eternity as standing above all other abstract entities. Hey, at least that's something to be proud of. And at number 4, Gaia. Gaia, an elder god, first appeared in Doctor Strange Volume 2, Issue 6 back in 1975, but under a different name, Mother Nature. A few months later, that name was changed to Gaia in Issue 4 of Giant-Sized Avengers. She possesses mystical powers of an unidentified nature, future, and appeared on Earth long before any life did. Her creation is due to the sentient biosphere known as the Demiurge, who made her at the dawn of life on Earth. Concerned with nature and evolution, Gaia has merged with Earth itself, although she often takes a humanoid form. She's also the mother of many other gods, and is often referred to as the Mother Goddess, birthing the likes of Thor after she and Odin mated. Gaia also has an interesting connection to our next number, in at 3, Set. Debuting in Marvel Future Volume 2 Issue 6, Set is also an elder god, but of a much more contemptuous nature than Gaia. While Gaia was concerned with life and geology flourishing, Set realized that if he devoured his fellow elder gods, he could add their power to his own, which has made Set technically the very first murderer according to Marvel. Other gods began to follow his ways, causing them to become corrupt and turn into demons. Set has a bond with reptiles, and often takes a reptile form. He even brought upon the emergence of the Serpent Men, although that race didn't last overly long compared to humanity. Up next at 2, Death. Death is one of the entities in the Marvel Universe who has had a major impact on the events of Earth and its heroes. This is primarily due to Thanos, and his infatuation with the character. His quest for the Infinity Gems and Omnipotence was to prove himself worthy for Death, and to carry out her wishes of correcting the imbalance of living to dead beings in the universe. She's also the hots for Deadpool, which is pretty great. Aside from her history with Earth, Death is the embodiment of decay and destruction, and was born along with the universe itself. She has no true form, but often manifests as a hooded human skeleton, and she lives in the realm of death, a place inaccessible to the living. She first appeared in Captain Marvel issue 26 back in 1973. And last but not least, in at number 1, Galactus. Despite not being the most powerful entity on this list, Galactus is arguably the most prominent. The first minus the Asgardians to come to mind when you think of Marvel and gods. In 1966, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby collaborated on a new antagonist to add to their incredibly successful flagship title, Fantastic Four. The idea was to craft a character that broke out of the current supervillain mold. According to Lee in an interview back in 1993, I quote, "Having dreamed up many powerful baddies, we felt the only way to top ourselves was to come up with an evildoer who had almost godlike powers. Therefore, the natural choice was some sort of demigod." And what about Kirby? Well, he dived into biblical inspirations for the character's design, describing Galactus and his angelic herald Silver Surfer as mythical figures, and noted that they were the first gods. Perhaps the most famous of the Marvel gods, Galactus was initially an explorer known as Galen of Ta, who existed prior to the Big Bang. When the Big Crunch occurred, he was bonded with Eternity, where he changed and gestated for 1 billion years before emerging. In order to sustain himself, he must devour planets for energy. This is when he created the Silver Surfer as a herald to find planets for him to devour, and how the character came upon Earth. Alright, there you have it, friends. Which of these gods is your favorite?